Alright, I'm pretty tired. I explored the Necropolis, which is a pretty big feat, and I just want to rest for a bit, but also want to talk about the piece of content that I just did. Because the Necropolis, I feel like, is the best ever content we've ever had, and I just want to review it and just talk about my experience with it, and also give some advice on when you should do it and if you should do it. So, let's talk about it for a bit. The Necropolis, I feel like, it took everything from the Abyss and Labyrinth and it took away the bad stuff and just added on to the good stuff. For example, in the Abyss and in Labyrinth, there is a percentage chance to evade and also stun you whenever they hit you, which is really, really annoying. And it's just so random and it's just so garbage, right? Like a random evade is so unnecessary. And I feel like it was a cheap way to make things harder, but with the Necropolis, there is no random evade or random stun. It's just purely off of the nodes that make it challenging, and of course the pretty massive health pools, right? And I feel like that is the better approach to take than just putting random evade and random stun into an already massive fight. So I feel like what they did with the Necropolis is a massive step up. Now, speaking of step ups, the health pools were quite insane, obviously. Almost 8 million per fight. Some were 6 million, but most of them were pretty dang high. And of course, this was expected because this is the successor to Labyrinth and Abyss, so the health pools were gonna be high, right? And I feel like at this point in the game, with like rank 5 champions, with 7-star champions, the 8 million health is fine, like it's tolerable for sure, especially because some champions in this game are just made for that health pool, and for me personally, Shuri and Aegon were just insane for this. And I'm not gonna make this a guide because I want that to be a separate video, but I'm just gonna say it right now, those two champions will just do so much work for you. But the fights themselves, I love the uniqueness of each fight. Now, with Abyss, there were some pretty cool fights there, but they didn't really work with the defender's abilities. But in the Necropolis, they do just that, and it makes the fights a lot cooler. For example, Eyebomb and the Acid Burn, Sandman and the Unstable, like they all felt very, very unique, which is always a cool thing. But there were some fights that were just really, really annoying. For example, my least favorite fight in the entire thing was Silver Centurion, but another good thing about the Necropolis is every fight has a good counter. For example, Silver Centurion, any power controller just kind of wipes him out, like Hulkbuster, and you can just plan along your path to make sure that another champion takes the majority of the fights, probably Aegon, right? So that's why I like the Necropolis, because every fight has a good counter, but some are very annoying still. Like, one that I really did not like at all was Spider-Man Supreme. It just was such a slog because you can't do your natural damage, and it's just pretty dang annoying. But also Nova, that one is very, very painful. So overall, there are some pretty annoying fights for sure, and some of these fights, you have to fight them multiple times. Like Nova and Silver Centurion, you have to fight multiple times, and it's really, really annoying each time because sometimes they are different nodes for the fights because of the trap node mechanic in the Necropolis. Now, the trap nodes, I feel like, were a nice addition. It made stuff harder for sure, and some combos are just really, really nasty. For example, Silver Centurion with the reverse control modifier is so annoying to deal with because pretty much every single second of the fight is reverse controls. So that was a pain for sure. And there are just some other very annoying trap nodes. Like there is one where you have to do 5 hits in a row or else you get a miss on the opponent, and that miss is 6 seconds long. So it is a very, very nasty miss. So yeah, most of these nodes were meant to make the fights harder, and of course they did make the fights harder, but it was also just a nice addition and a nice challenge to just try to work around the nodes and the champions as well. But to be honest, man, Aegon just kind of wipes it completely because he works for the nodes and the champions. And even if he doesn't, right, just do your heavy attack, get the 6 Furies, and do a ton of damage, and just win the game. Now, one thing I want to complain about is the rewards. The rewards are great, right? Obviously, 2 to 3 generic gem, 2 to 3 class gem, insane stuff. But one thing that I feel like was missing for sure was gold. Yeah, so there is no gold at all in the Necropolis. 0 gold, just 0, right? It's really annoying because you get like 6 rank up gems, you get like 2 ascensions as well, and it's so hard to just do all those rank ups when you have a very little amount of gold, and Necropolis gives you 0 gold. That is my one complaint about the reward set. Besides that, it's pretty good. Honestly, I feel like maybe for exploration, I think it was time to start opening up 7-star awakening gems. And I feel like for exploration, a class gem would be pretty dang sweet. A generic might be too much for sure, but even right now, the rewards are just so good. Like a 7-star maestro, who is now rank 3 for me at least, is so cool. A 2 to 3 generic gem, you're like 2nd ever rank 3. Insane. Just so many good rewards, like the Titan crystal as well. Maybe could have been 2, but I'm not gonna say too much about that. I feel like 2 is kind of fair given that completion is half of 1, and then 5 paths later it's only 1 extra, like 10,000 more shards. But yeah, anyway, like you get other stuff as well for the paths, so it kind of does make up for it at least. But now some advice about the Necropolis and when you should do it. So I feel like you can just do this right now. Complete honesty, this is something you should prioritize because your first rank 3 7-star is awaiting you. And I know the nodes look scary and the health pools look scary, but with the right team, it's honestly very manageable. And for my completion, I went with the Red Goblin and Elsa path with Aegon. And I know not everyone has Aegon or wants to rank him, but I would really try your hardest to get an Aegon somehow. And he's not the cheapest option, obviously. There are cheaper options like Baron Zemo for the completion path and like Shuri for sure, but Aegon, there's no rotation. There is no like very specific thing to master with him. It's just go in, do your damage, revive once you like don't survive, and then yeah, you're set, man. So Aegon I feel like is the best way to go for most players. And if you want to be efficient, then there is Baron Zemo, there is Shuri, and there is Wong as well. But more on Wong in a separate video because my goodness, man, Wong is probably the best champion for Necropolis, and I'm not even kidding. So Wong, Kate Bishop as well, just a ton of options for you to utilize. But also, this isn't a guide for completion. I'll make that in a separate video, but I just want to say you should prioritize it. You should go for it pretty much instantly, like as soon as possible. But like, of course, get your stash ready, get your potions, your revives ready, because this isn't a cheap adventure, right? This is a pretty expensive one, especially for like your first run at it. So I would save up about 50 to 75 revives and just go with the path that best suits your champions. If it's Aegon, then go with the Red Goblin path. If it is Baron Zemo, go for the Mr. Fantastic path. Or like if it's Shuri as well, go for that path. There are a ton of options that you can do, and it just depends on your current champion setup. But yeah, Necropolis, just a really nice piece of content. Definitely challenging, definitely the best thing that is available in the game when it comes to challenge and when it comes to rewards. So it is very much so a success, in my opinion at least. But let me know your thoughts about the Necropolis. I feel like this was mainly positively like received, so that's good for sure. And yes, about it for me.